Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Jane Romero from the Pacific Region Infrastructure Facility. I will be your lecturer for the Climate Change Adaptation and Disaster Risk Reduction session, focusing on structural approaches, specifically on buildings. So to start with Module 1 on the review of impacts of changing climate to buildings. I think we're all familiar with the impacts of climate change: rising temperature, increased rainfall intensity and frequency of droughts, sea level rise, and also increased tropical cyclone intensity and frequency. These have varying impacts in buildings. Like, for example, uh, rising temperature can cause thermal discomfort and risk of heat stress. May also cause of lost productivity when people could no longer work outside for a longer time period. It will also have implication on increased energy demand for cooling when working indoors also becomes not comfortable without air conditioning. In urban areas, it can also trigger this heat island effect. And for some building elements, if it's too dry, it may crack or warp. So moving on to the impacts of rainfall intensity, or possibility of increased flooding in buildings. It may cause contamination with increased flooding, especially if the water also becomes stagnant, and in the process the foundations can be compromised, and it may also lead into degradation and failure of pipes. For the risk of sea level rise, it can intensify coastal erosion. It might also expose foundation of structures that are built near the beach, coastal area. It can cause contamination from sewage, soil, and mud. And also there are implications of this increased salt spray, because as we all know, some building materials are prone to rusting. In the case of increased tropical cyclone intensity, characterized with stronger winds, it imposes increased stress on building loadings and materials, leading to structural failure and loss of roofing. And because of this loss of roofing or other flying debris, it may also cause damage to other properties. And of course, increased rain and moisture penetration of buildings can cause also internal damage. I no longer added photos to describe this impacts of various elements of climate change, because I think all of us have experienced how it is to be a strong cyclone, and how it feels during a huge storm, and we can still, I think, remember the devastation that happened afterwards. And you may also notice that this impacts with a varying degree of destruction. Some can be mitigated in the planning side, while some can also be addressed in retrofitting the building or designing the building to withstand like stronger winds, for example, or foundation on unstable grounds. So that would be what we are looking at in the next module.